Hello, my name is John Wood, affectionately known as AuthorOnWheels. Today is a very different video than I'm used to producing, but then again, the events that occurred on September 11th, 2001 were not ordinary either. 22 years ago at 7:14 a.m. Central District Time, the worst attack on our country to date occurred and culminated by the following events. 2 fully loaded passenger aircraft were hijacked and flown into the World Trade Center, and 1 flown into the Pentagon. During the attacks and aftermath, 2,977 brave people lost their lives, including multiple fire, EMS, police, and other first responders who were scanning the rubble in search of survivors. Today, we pause to reflect on those events and to remember the brave men and women who lost their lives in the most horrific and savage attack on this country. Country music singer Alan Jackson penned the song "Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning" after the events of 9/11, and today I want you to listen to these words as we pause and reflect on how lucky we are to live in America. When we return, I'll give my final thoughts and my memories of September 11th, 2001. Enjoy the song.
Where were you when the world stopped turning that September day? Out in the yard, your wife and children working on some stage in L.A. Did you stand there in shock at the sight of that black smoke rising against that blue sky? Did you shout out in anger and fear for your neighbor? Or did you just sit down and cry? Did you weep for the children who lost their dear loved ones? Pray for the ones who don't know? Did you rejoice for the people who walked from the rubble and sob for the ones left below? Did you burst out in pride for the red, white, and blue, the heroes who died just doing what they do? Did you look up to heaven for some kind of answer and look at yourself and what really matters? I'm just a singer of simple songs. I'm not a real political man. I watch CNN, but I'm not sure I can tell you the difference in Iraq and Iran. But I know Jesus and I've talked to God, and I remember this from when I was young. Faith, hope, and love are some good things He gave us, and the greatest is love. Where were you when the world stopped turning that September day? Teaching a class full of innocent children, driving down some cold interstate. Did you feel guilty cause you're a survivor? In a crowded room, did you feel alone? Did you call up your mother and tell her you loved her? Did you dust off that Bible at home? Did you open your eyes and hope it never happened? Close your eyes and not go to sleep? Did you notice the sunset the first time in ages? Speak to some stranger on the street? Did you lay down at night and think of tomorrow? Go out and buy you a gun? Did you turn off that violent old movie you're watching? Turn on I Love Lucy reruns? Did you go to a church and hold hands with some stranger? Stand in line and give your own blood? Did you just stay home and cling tight to your family? Thank God you had somebody to love. I'm just a singer of simple songs. I'm not a real political man. I watch CNN, but I'm not sure I can tell you difference in Iraq and Iran. But I know Jesus and I talk to God, and I remember this from when I was young. Faith, hope, and love are some good things He gave us, and the greatest is love. I'm just a singer of simple songs. I'm not a real political man. I watch CNN, but I'm not sure I could tell you the difference in Iraq and Iran. But I know Jesus and I talk to God, and I remember this from when I was young. Faith, hope, and love are some good things He gave us, and the greatest is love. The greatest is love. The greatest is love. Where were you when the world stopped turning that September day?
That song still gets to me every time, even 22 years later. On September 11th, 2001, I was a 7-year-old. I was just like any other 7-year-old. I went to school, and I remember we were called to an assembly outside in the parking lot of our school, where we later found out that the events of 9/11 had unfolded as we were learning. And as we look back on the TV at the events that had been unfolding all before our very eyes, I can honestly remember wondering if my family was safe. Even though we were not in New York or anywhere near the events at the time, I remember my dad was on the open road, traveling back from Tennessee as he listened to the events unfolding on the radio in his truck. And as I look back 22 years later, although I may not have known much then, what I do know now is that you never know who your friends are until they are rallying around you in the midst of your mess, which I know a lot of fellow Americans have done since those events happened so many years ago. My advice for you: keep fighting for what you believe in, and when tragedy strikes near you, do your best to help. You might be the only friendly face that someone sees in the midst of their tragedy. And with that being said, that's it for this short video. I'm sorry the topic has to be so sad. I invite you to like this video in the memory of the brave Americans that lost their lives that day. Let's reach 2,977 likes for each individual that lost their lives that day. I encourage you to watch any other video on my channel, and if you like the content that you see, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel, and also if you feel led to donate to the channel by donating via PayPal. Every donation goes to continuing the work of Author on Wheels. I also encourage you to purchase a copy of my book, A Fight to Survive, which is available where books are sold. There will be subsidiary links for everything in the description of this video. Again, before I go, let me ask you a question. I tell my story on wheels. What about you? Let's turn the page and let the next chapter begin. See you soon.